welcome to Scrollin', a podcast about the Elder Scrolls Online. I'm Ket.
I'm Davius.
This is episode number 36.
Killing us with these patch notes they're giving us.
Weak. It's probably a good thing. It probably just means that they're pretty happy with
things are perfect
with the situation.
It's a perfect world.
They've just been nailing it week after week after week. No, we don't. I don't want to. say that. But yeah, it has been another really slim week for PTS. It's week 5, version 6.2.4. We still have 2 weeks left. So this patch is going to go live November 2nd for PC, and then I don't know, a couple of weeks later for consoles. Isn't it usually like 2 weeks later, something like that?
It's a little bit of a delay on it, but not much.
And really not a ton in this week's patch. Doubtful that there's going to be anything huge next week or the week after, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably pretty much decided at this point, right? This is kind of what we're getting. No huge changes are probably going to come. It's that first was that first PTS or second PTS that kind of they rolled out the big changes.
I think it was just like that first week was kind of the big stuff, and then week 3 is kind of when you expect the big kind of adjustments to happen, but nothing major really happened. They got really fixated on that Oblivion's Foe set, and that was kind of where all their energy went into for a couple of weeks there, it seemed. Honestly, it seems like a lot of the energy has been going into the Vateshran arena. Like every week there has been a consistent theme that particular segment of the patch notes is super duper long. But what's interesting is this week that's not the case. I counted a mere 6 adjustments made to the Vateshran solo arena this week. So I think they're probably pretty close to having that thing dialed into where they want it.
The thing that's stood out to me so much about these patch notes is obviously the lack of changes and things like, that usually we've gotten so used to. But it's kind of where you're talking about where their energy is. It really seems like their energy is just polishing things up.
Yeah, I agree with you there. That does seem to be like an overall theme to every single patch. It's just tons and tons of fixes and little things that you may or may not even notice while you're playing the game. But I think those little details definitely can go a long way. Another cool thing is this week on PTS, they're testing a new event that hasn't been in the game before, exactly like this anyway. It's called the Tribunal Celebration, and it's combining the Morrowind and the Clockwork City celebration events into one. So while that's going on, when you can participate in activities in either one of those zones, and you'll get rewards for that. That's pretty cool.
So is it replacing those 2 events, or is it just another event on the calendar?
My assumption is that's replacing. That's just what those events are going to be from now on. And I think that makes sense, actually, because, the more and more expansions and DLCs that we get, if we're going to have a celebration for every single one of those, eventually we're going to run out of space on the calendar. So, and it makes sense to combine these 2 in particular. They're closely related story-wise.
Yeah, very closely related. Yeah, I would agree with you there that it makes a lot of sense that those 2, they really go hand in hand.
Could see them doing like a Northern Elsewhere combined with Southern Elsewhere celebration sort of thing. And you could see that sort of thing maybe happening more in the future as more content is released. For the item set collection, this new awesome feature, they added a little thing where fenced items or any items that you destroy by using the Destroy All Junk feature, those items will now be added to your item set collection automatically. That's pretty cool.
Give me all the quality of life upgrades. I'm all for it.
Yeah. And related to that, now you can right click on items in your inventory, and there'll be an option to bind it to your character, so you don't actually have to equip it to bind it. That's handy, because you might just be trying to collect the pieces. You don't actually want to use it right then. You're just trying to put them in your collection. So it's cool that you don't actually have to equip it, and then that unequips a piece that you do want. So now you have to go find that and re-equip it. And so that's pretty cool. I think that's basically the patch, right? That's basically this week's PTS patch.
There you summed it up right there.
A bunch of miscellaneous, just random fixes, but really not even a ton of those this week. We've made a few jokes about how these major minor buff and debuff changes, how they just dropped a bunch of pretty drastic changes 1 week and then haven't touched it since. It's just like nothing but net, nailed it on the first try. But I wonder if it's just difficult to know until this actually goes live. Because I'm thinking of it from a PvP perspective. If you're trying to balance it in that regard, there just isn't the player population on PTS to really see. I mean, you could duel and stuff like that, but I think we've talked before. We don't want PvP to be balanced around dueling,
right.
and you can be a really, really good dueler and be really bad at Battlegrounds or really bad at Cyrodiil or whatever. So it's a totally different thing. So I wonder when this patch goes live and these changes are actually out and out there, and players start doing Battlegrounds and just doing PvP, if maybe in the coming weeks after the live patch, we'll see some adjustments then. And you could even think of the first couple of weeks as like an early access, because it doesn't come to console till a couple of weeks later.
It's true.
So you could kind of think of those first couple of weeks of the live patch as being like an early access to do like the real final testing in a way.
Yeah, it makes a lot of sense. The PTS just doesn't, like you said, it just doesn't have the population. And so I hadn't really thought about that, but I think that's a really good point. With those big changes, they're going to need to see those changes. I think it's more fun to think of the idea as this was just a mic drop from the dev team that here's your changes, we're out. But
just like a perfect, like just dagger pierce, just perfect. I would love that if it's just like one and done, perfect. Everything is exactly perfectly balanced the way we want it.
Yeah.
I think the one thing that stands out of my mind of all of these major minor buff changes is this absolutely brings Stamina Necromancer down a peg, which is much needed. Because I don't remember the numbers exactly, but major and minor defile are basically both cut in half, and that is a huge part of why Stamina Necromancers are so powerful.
Yeah, it's time for them. It's time for them to come down. I even want to go back. I think what you just talked about on dueling. Dueling can be fun, and I think it's great that it's in the game, but I think the perfect idea for dueling is that it's kind of like this player run version of PvP.
It's true. We have our own set of rules.
Yeah, and it works that way. I think that's the perfect that's the perfect description of what dueling should be. Is this kind of player run, player rules. It'd be cool if that was expanded a bit, so we could have like group duels. Like I could have a group of 3 versus this group of 5 or whatever, and that'd be fun. Yep.
Yeah, just spitballing, Zoss, if you're listening.
You've always joked about the if you were able to do turn a home into like a battleground, how much fun that would be.
Oh yeah, that'd be great. That's one of our great ideas, being able to enable player aggression in homes. A nemesis system similar to the Ring of Mara, where you can name a specific nemesis, only one, but anytime you see that person, it's PvP. Like you can kill each other. I would love that. Yeah, I would love that.
Just the moments that would create,
even in a dungeon. Could you imagine like queuing up for a random dungeon? Like, hey, it's you.
There he is.
Oh, I would love it. That would be so good. It's never. I mean, that would never happen.
No, it would never happen. But it's just that would be the perfect scenario. Like you're doing a group. Somebody in the group drops for some reason. 3 people are sitting there waiting. All of a sudden, somebody joins in, and it's like, oh wait,
and it's that guy.
Oh wait a minute, guys.
Hold on, guys. We can do the dungeon in a minute, but me and this guy got a score to settle. just duel each other right then and there.
That'd be so hilarious.
That'd be great. Cyrodiil testing. It's not over after all. So we said last week that was the final week 6, and that was the end. And at that time, that was true. But they've added a couple more weeks. So the plan is for testing to be done by the time the patch goes live on November 2nd. So they've added a couple new test scenarios. There was a forum post by Gina. She said, We want to see how a combination of changes from previous tests affect performance, as we found they have not had a significant impact individually. So, right now, October 19th through 26th, this is week 7, I guess, of testing. So right now we have shared global AoE cooldowns with a 3-second timer, so all AoE abilities share a 3-second cooldown. And we also have the group size limited to 12 in Cyrodiil, and you can't heal anybody outside of your group. So basically, same thing as week 5, or same thing as week 5, but also they added the all AoEs share a 3-second cooldown, whether you're in a group or not.
And that was the first week of tests, correct?
Yeah, so it's like week 1 plus week 5.
Yeah.
Right? Weird.
Yeah.
And then next week, the hopefully the final week of testing. I'm sick of Cyrodiil testing, man. I'm over it.
I think it's a good thing that they're doing tests, but the joke to me is that Cyrodiil's just the new PTS. You know, it's PTS number 2.
Yeah, it's just hey, maybe they should just put it in this like eternal testing phase. No, they shouldn't. They probably should not do that. So then the final week, we're still going to have the shared AoE 3-second cooldown. We're still going to have the group size limited to 12. Still cannot heal outside of the group. So basically same thing as this week. Plus, man, this is a dinger right here, man. Global ramping cost per successive AoE cast. So any AoEs that are cast back to back within 5 seconds of each other, they're going to have the cost of that ability, cost of all AoE abilities increased by 50%, then 100%, then 150%. And your regen.
That's not enough.
And your regen also gets decreased per successive cast within 5 seconds by 33, 66, and 99%.
This is just going to be Cyrodiil light attacks. Just everybody light attacking.
I mean, yeah, I imagine performance is going to be amazing that week, right?
No
I
abilities.
mean, you can't cast anything.
I want to do that test just to see how ridiculously hard it is to cast an ability.
Yeah, we should actually really go try and engage in PvP and like try our very best and see what happens. I mean, I don't know. Clearly, that's just not a playable scenario whatsoever. Hopefully, they gather some valuable data out of that. Maybe they can. I don't know what their method is, but come on, nobody's going to be having fun that week. Nobody.
Yeah. I mean, the only thing I can think that they're getting from this are, all right, what does performance look like when nobody's casting abilities?
unless we just want Cyrodiil to become straight siege warfare and nothing else, you know, and maybe if that's the goal, maybe this would get us there.
I hope that's not the case.
So yeah, 2 more weeks of testing. We're in one of those weeks right now. So next week will be the final week of testing. And they're also giving an update to their game performance plans for this upcoming patch. So again, Gina made a forum post to talk about their performance plans. But first, she gave us a recap of Update 27's performance improvements, and we're in Update 27 right now. So he talks about these Cyrodiil tests. The global cooldown. She said that the global cooldown test resulted in the greatest performance gains, about 25% increase in server performance, which I don't know exactly what the metrics are that they're going by there, but the server performs 25% better during that global AoE cooldown. Week 1 of testing yielded the best results performance-wise. Not surprising because, again, you can't cast half your abilities, a lot of the time.
Yeah, it really just kind of shuts your character down. It makes sense that was the biggest one.
Yeah, totally. They also say that the population remained consistent during peak hours during these tests, which I think is really surprising. I'm
very surprised by that. But, I mean, I would say I believe it because, when I looked at Cyrodiil, the main campaign was, it did maintain pop lock. So it was.
Yeah. They say remain consistent during peak hours. So probably I guess that makes sense. So one thing they're touting, kind of bragging about here in this update recap, or in this performance recap, and I've noticed this myself, a 95% decrease in the intermittent load screens in Cyrodiil, that issue that I think we've probably all experienced if you've stepped foot in Cyrodiil. Now, this is not related to the AoE tests, though. This is just some other fix that they've made, and I've noticed that. Like, there are still issues in Cyrodiil, but that is greatly improved. Have you ran into that before, where just load screens just pop up out of nowhere?
Yeah, that's happened to me all the time. And
maddening.
And in the middle of a fight or the middle of a siege, I mean, it doesn't play favorites on when it's actually going to happen. So,
oh no.
Yeah, that is a great fix, regardless of all these other tests. The 95% decrease in that's a fantastic fix.
Anything else to say about Cyrodiil tests or performance improvements, anything like that?
I need to get in there, and I've popped in the campaigns during each test just to kind of get a feel for each one, but I really need to get in there and really try multiple fights. I know you said you had a week where you actually were in there quite a bit, and it was pretty interesting to see. But
week 5, just because I was really specifically curious about week 5, so I did spend a lot of time that week. And it was fun. It was, Cyrodiil is fun when it works well. It really is. That's why I'm just like, okay, let's just do the tests. Sure, it's annoying, but if you can fix Cyrodiil, please fix Cyrodiil, because I love it. If performance wasn't a problem at all, I wonder if I would spend most of my time in Cyrodiil or not. It's hard to even know right now, because it's like I don't even consider it an option right now.
Yeah, that's a really good point. I mean, I really like that it seems like the limiting of the group size seems to be something that I just have to think that that's something going forward, along with the ally target abilities only. Mm-hmm. That has to, you really get the feel, and those are both included on the new tests. You really get the feel that might be something permanent going forward, and I think that's will be great. I think that's a great change.
Well, yeah, whether it impacts performance or not, I think from a balance, from like a combat balance standpoint, it'd be really great if they do like what we said last week. If they allow direct heals to go outside of the group, I think we're just perfectly in the sweet spot there.
Right. I will say that I maybe concern is a little bit of a strong word, but I'm slightly concerned that they've really zeroed in on the global AoE cooldown.
That's the one that got them the best results. So they're like, sweet, let's look at that a little more closely.
That's got to be a little concerning. Obviously, they would never put a 3-second timer. So that's the thing that I want to say is that, I would be very, very just shocked if they did anything that long. That seems like an extreme. But even just the idea that they seem very interested in a global AoE cooldown, I don't know.
I don't see how they could implement that without having to do a massive rebalance of every class in this entire game.
But that's the thing. If it's only going to happen in Cyrodiil, you can't do a rebalance, right? I mean, how could you do a full rebalance if this is only going to take place in Cyrodiil?
It would just be like a new thing that would have to be like, how do they balance CP and no CP? They just have to try to account for both as best they can. And this would be like a new thing. That's probably, after all the updates this week and all the talk and the new updates, I'm a little concerned that they mentioned that one specifically, talking about how it's better performance and that one really got them results that they thought were good. I can't imagine if they did a global cooldown. That's just not going to be... If you talk to anyone who spends any amount of time in Cyrodiil, I think almost all of them will say the same thing. They'd rather just have the bad performance than have that be the solution. Yeah, we when that, what was that, week 1, I think, was the first global cooldown. I think that was mainly the only part to that test. It's just 3-second global cooldown on AoEs. Yep. We went in and picked some fights and tried to do some fights. And it was like, you might as well not even have had healing or anything like that. It just, you got like one rotation in, and then after that it was like, all right, well, let's hang out for a second.
It just was not.
Yeah, and like think about like if you spend say like me or like you and me, we spend most of our time in Battlegrounds. We know how to use our character a certain way, and then we hop into Cyrodiil once in a while just to do something different. It's like, man, my build doesn't work at all. Like this, like I don't even know what to do. Like I just can't imagine having just Cyrodiil be so drastically different. I would absolutely just never enter Cyrodiil unless I maybe had a specific character that was made exactly for that one and only game mode.
I think that's why I'm worried the most is that if they introduce any sort of global cooldown, it's just all, my entire style and yours too, I think it's just not going to work in Cyrodiil. And so really for me personally, and I think you were just saying the same thing, it's just going to keep me out of Cyrodiil. It's just, Cyrodiil's
I could take my Nightblade. Like that'd be one of my few characters that would still operate fairly well.
But I just really hope that doesn't happen because, I would like to experience Cyrodiil if the performance is right. I can, we've had a lot of fun in Cyrodiil in the past, but if it's going to be this global AoE cooldown thing, it's just going to make Cyrodiil not part of the game for me.
Yeah, not interested. And I wonder if maybe they're kind of coming to the conclusion that there's not going to be an easy way to fix Cyrodiil's performance without something drastic like this, something unpleasant like this. And I wonder if that's part of why, like, they're making transmutes easier to get outside of Cyrodiil and other stuff. Like, maybe they're just starting to say, like, you know what, guys, maybe it's just not going to happen. And we just need to deal with it as best we can.
I would even rather than a global AoE cooldown, I would rather them even section Cyrodiil off, like section it into like actual zones, and then when you go into that zone you can fight over those types of keeps, and then you can move to different. I would rather that happen than
kind of segment it like Imperial City,
right?
If they could maybe instance each of those, and if that could somehow help, I don't know. That'd be cool. Although that sounds like a lot of development work, and right. I wonder if they would devote those resources to that.
We'll just have to wait and see.
We'll just have to see. Luckily, Group Battlegrounds is coming back, so I'll just be doing that probably.
Yeah, we're going to be in Group BGs.
So whatever happens in Cyrodiil, have fun with that. So that's basically the news this week. Very slim PTS and some Cyrodiil and performance related news. So why don't we move on and talk about what we've been doing this week in the Elder Scrolls Online. I've actually had a pretty busy week in ES. So, Davis, you and I were talking off the record the other day about how, of course, as I've mentioned in previous episodes, I moved to a new location. I started a new job, and it's taken me a little bit of time to adapt to this new situation, especially to the job. It is a much, much more physically demanding job than my last job was. And so I'm only just now getting to a point where I'm not just totally incapacitated at the end of the day. So I'm starting to find that groove again, and I'm putting the time in and really working on some builds and doing a lot of stuff. And I got some spicy builds in the work here, Davius. So number one, you're going to be happy to hear, I've been spending a ton of time with my Stamina Warden healer, Hambone Malone.
Hambone Malone. Love this character. Love the name.
He's great. He's so much fun. This is the guy I've been doing basically all my Battlegrounds with this week. And it's so much fun. So I've talked about him a few times in the past few episodes. He's a stamina healer. That's right, stamina healer. Wardens are uniquely capable of pulling that off, right?
Right.
You can have stamina support builds of other classes, but really the Warden is the only one that you could straight up call them a healer and it applies, right? So the gear, it's 5 pieces Hircines, 5 pieces Powerful Assault, and Troll King. So it's just a standard 5.5.2 setup. I was thinking about getting an arena weapon for him because it could fit on there. But I'm looking through all of them, and none of them really seem to fit the build all that well. So I think I'm just not going to worry about it and just keep the 5.5.2. Really, none of the mythic items I don't think are really going to work that great either. So standard 5.5.2 it is. He uses a bow on the front bar and a two-hander on the back bar just for buffs and heals and that sort of stuff. So one plan I have for this guy, I'm going to have to do a little bit of dungeon farming to make this happen, but I think I'm going to get rid of that two-hander and go with dual daggers instead on the back bar. I think that's going to be a good move because I don't do the back bar. There's no attacks whatsoever, and I don't use any two-handed abilities either. All I do on that bar is cast buffs and heals, nothing else. So if I switch to dual daggers, that's going to give me a little over an extra like 100 weapon damage or so, and it's also going to take me from 20% crit to 30% crit, and that's like just with the powered trait, not even the precise. That's not even precise, and that's not buffed either. So if I have my crit buff active, that's 42% crit in no CP.
Yeah, I really like that change. I think that that crit is going to be, you're a stamina support. You're really big on the heals, and I think that crit is really going to show up in those heal numbers.
Yeah, crit is a big deal in heals. Like for any healer, crit is a very good stat to invest in. That's going to be by far the best way to have those moments where you resurrect someone from the dead, basically, because you have this massive crit spike. And that's kind of basically the one and only thing I think that stamina builds have over magicka builds in regards to healing is stamina has more access to a lot more crit than magicka builds too. It's a lot easier to get high crit. So I think I'm just going to try to exploit that as much as I can and go dual daggers. And I'm undecided if I'm going to use the powered trait or the precise trait. If I use precise, I think that's like another 10% or so crit, maybe.
That's going to be tough. You might have to try both out and see how that works out, because I am really intrigued to see which one of those would equal out to more heals.
I'm leaning towards powered just because, that gives me a little extra sauce when I'm not critting too. So.
It's true. Yeah, there might be more consistency to that. Now, I have to ask you, is this going to be your only stamina character that doesn't use rally?
I'm not sure. It might be, but like wardens, they can get away with that too, right? Because they get their damage buff in class with the netch. But I am doing without minor endurance, and that's a bummer.
It's such a big deal when a class is able to get their weapon buff with a class ability.
Yeah, or with a class ability that you actually want to use, right? Like Nightblades can get it within their class, but it's on an ability that none of them want to use. And even if they do want to use it, it's actually kind of difficult to use. So
yeah, that's a huge thing for Warden and Sorcs as well.
Yeah, totally. So that's one change. I'm going to switch to daggers instead of the two-hander, and I'm also going to replace the Troll King monster set. Can you guess which monster set that I'm going to choose?
You say Mighty Chudan.
It's Mighty Chudan.
Oh no! You're addicted to this thing. See, well, it's your old Betsy of monster sets.
I have my reasons, okay, and I'm going to list them to you now.
All right.
I have a list pre-written because I knew you were going to give me crap about it. Reason number 1: armor buffs are boring. Okay, they're the most boring kind of ability that you can have on your bar. It's just a timer. Push a button. Okay, I take less damage for 20 or so seconds. Then I push the button again to keep taking less damage. There's a couple of classes like Sorcerer's armor buff is actually awesome because it makes you run faster. That's an ability I actually want to use. And there's a couple of others, but for the most part, armor buffs are super boring, not fun to use, don't like it.
I'll give you that. I'll agree with you on that one.
But you know what isn't boring? It's really cool? The Warden's Green Lotus ability. It's a really awesome ability. It looks cool. It has an awesome visual effect, and it has a good application as well. It makes all my light and heavy attacks heal myself or my allies. It also gives me my major crit buff. It's a really great ability that I enjoy using, unlike my armor buff.
And this is the ability that it kind of summons like the garden around the character, right? All the plants.
No, he kind of does a little meditation pose and these little flower petals kind of blossom around his feet.
That's not the one I was thinking of.
Yeah.
Okay.
So yeah, and it's just a buff that you have. It's a buff that you cast on yourself, and it causes all your light and heavy attacks to heal yourself or nearby allies, and it gives you your major crit buff. So it's just an ability that I've really always wanted to put on my bar, but it's just hard to find the space when I have everything that I need. But Mighty Chudan allows me to get rid of my boring armor buff and put Green Lotus in its place. That's awesome. So replacing my armor buff with Green Lotus gives me my major crit buff, which allows me to get rid of Camo Hunter off of my front bar, because that's all I was really using that for. And then I can put Shuffle in its place, because I didn't have any snare removal until now. So you can see, putting Mighty Chudan on there, it just has this cascading chain reaction of just everything just falls right into place just perfectly. And in my view, I'm not giving anything up, all right? Like, I think of the Green Lotus ability as the true two-piece bonus. Rather than just getting my major armor buff at all times, it's enabling me to use this ability. So, I was using Troll King, which gives everyone extra health recovery when I heal them when they're under 50% health. Well, now, instead of that functionality, all my light and heavy attacks heal myself or my allies, and I have this major crit buff all the time. So I feel like it's an even trade, or even a better trade, honestly.
I do like to see what it's done with your ability bars. It does sound, replacing Camo Hunter and getting that buff, that's really nice. Because Camo Hunter, that's really all it is. It takes up a slot because you need that major crit buff. So the fact that you're getting two things out of one ability, I can see what you're saying with the true two-piece bonus.
Yeah, and plus... Camo Hunter also can give you minor berserk, but that's getting super nerfed, so I don't even care anymore. It's like, and another point is I was using Troll King, but Troll King is super duper common in PvP, and if I have a teammate wearing Troll King, then it's useless to have two sets of Troll King in your group.
Yep, we've run into that in the past before.
Yeah, exactly.
So let me ask you this. Have you tested out the heals that the Green Lotus ability gives? Like, are they pretty strong heals?
Yeah, it's decent. It usually accounts for about 5% of my overall heals, give or take, depending on the match. But okay. And I also am still getting used to having it on my bar, so I don't have the best uptime on it right now. I'm still learning the build. But about 5% or so. So, and it's also giving me my major crit buff at the same time. So it's also empowering all my other heals. So when I look at combat metrics and I'm looking at, how much healing all my other abilities are doing, you gotta think Green Lotus is empowering all of those with that crit.
I don't know if I'm being tricked or not. You might have sold me on this somehow.
And I wasn't benefiting from the crit with Camo Hunter, because Camo Hunter only gives me crit while slotted, so that's just on my front bar. I don't have any heals on my front bar. So, I think this is the way to go. Mighty Chudan, as soon as I equipped Mighty Chudan, everything just fell right into place and the build's perfect. Another thing about Troll King is that if you care about your healing numbers at the end of a match, Troll King doesn't count towards your healing numbers, but Green Lotus does.
Yeah, that's always drove me nuts about Troll King, is that it, Battlegrounds, for better or worse, how you are measured in a battleground is based on your numbers. Even as a healer, you're never going to score real high, but people in your group are still going to look at your healing numbers, and Troll King just really doesn't give you anything. And so
I look at my healing. It's just for me. Like, I want to see the big numbers.
Yeah. Everybody has to admit that. That's part of the fun. Yeah. Is like, all right, how big? How good did I do? How big are these numbers?
Dude, with the grouping coming back, we're gonna get back to these. We're gonna be aiming for like 1,000,000 heals, 1,000,000 damage. Man, it's gonna be the good I remember stuff. Those days. Like, do you remember there were a couple of times like, whoa, dude, I got 1,000,000 heals and damage that match. Holy crap, MVP.
I've almost forgotten the days that Davius, if he didn't hit 1,000,000 heals, it was a terrible match. Yeah, he had to hit 1,000,000 heals. I would hit 1.5. Yeah,
it was like a disappointment if you didn't.
1.5 million heals was like his average there for a while. So I am
excited. It's like hard to break 300k heals now with the solo queue only.
Very difficult. It's actually been a long time since I've even gone into a battleground with him, but several months. But
It's coming, couple of weeks.
I'm excited to dust him off and get him back in there.
We need to pair him up with the other character that I've been spending a lot of time with, which is my Stamina Dragon Knight, Bad Sally. She's been waiting. She's been sitting by and waiting until the day that she can have a healer to roll with in Battlegrounds. She's been totally shelved because I can't do anything with this character in the current meta, man. I feel like the stamDK's defensive kit is inadequate right now. Mm-hmm. And I can go into Battlegrounds. Like I did a few Battlegrounds with her yesterday, and it's still kind of the typical experience where I'll get maybe 15 or so kills, but I'm also like getting 8 to 10 deaths. You know, I'm just like trading kills for deaths most of the time.
That really is stamDK right now. I've had the exact same thing with my stamDK. It's you can get kills, it's great, but if you can get 3 kills for every 2 deaths, it's a great ratio right now for stamDK, I feel like.
Yeah, if you can have 2 to 1, 3 to 1, that's pretty typical, I would say. I mean, there are some phenomenal players that'll prove you wrong, but as far as my skill set, that's been my experience. So I'm looking forward to the grouping coming back so we can pair up again, because this build is a monster in the right situation. It's so much damage. And I've talked about it before in the past, like when Greymore was first dropping, I was getting excited about this character, and I'm still wanting to do the exact same build, which is, right now it's 5 pieces Spriggan, 2 pieces Bloodspawn, the Maelstrom 2-hander, and the Master Dual Wield. And then I have the Malakath Band of Brutality and 2 pieces Trainee. So it's really just all about that Maelstrom 2-hander and the Master's Dual Wield, and then Malakath juicing both of those things up. Of course, the plan is to replace Spriggan with Unleashed Terror, which is something I got to farm from a dungeon.
Yep.
But that's gonna pair up perfectly with the Maelstrom 2-hander, because both of those things, basically, when I hit someone with a gap closer, they get 2 super heavy bleeds applied to them right then. So that's the plan there. I'm also going to do all damage glyphs on my jewelry, which is a big deal for Sally. These recovery buffs that we're getting this patch is going to be a very big deal for this character. She needs it. She needs all the recovery she can get. Every Dragon Knight, I think.
Yeah.
I think I'm going to swap out the well-fitted traits for Divines, because she doesn't use a bow. I'm not really spamming roll dodge on her like I do other stamina characters. So I think I'm going to go 4 Divines to juice up my Serpent Mundus, my Recovery Mundus a little bit more. I also think I'm going to get rid of Fragmented Shield, the buff that gives you major mending, because that's getting gutted.
Yeah.
So I don't think it's worth taking up a slot anymore.
Which is really, we're talking about stamDK, the defensive kit, and that's a massive hit to their defensive kit. That was kind of like their one thing they had going for them.
That's like a bread and butter stamDK ability. Like what a typical stamDK does is they stack their weapon damage to the sky, and then they use this Fragmented Shield ability so that the huge weapon damage and the major mending, they can get these. They basically puts them in a situation where all they need is vigor, and they can just cast vigor, and that's all it takes to keep them alive.
That's exactly what I do on my stamDK.
Yeah. It has worked really well for them in the past, but it's just there's too much passive damage going around right now. It just doesn't work for them. It really is all about avoidance right now, and that certainly is not the DK strong suit.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say about your Bad Sally character. She's not one to roll around. She's gonna go hit people right in the face. She's very much up close and personal, in your face. But yeah, her stam recovery is going to go from a flat 2K to 2,400. Even though I'm replacing all the jewelry glyphs with damage glyphs. These recovery buffs are just wild. They're wild to think about.
Yeah. I'm pumped about that character. She's probably going to stay out of the solo queue, and we're just going to duo or get a full squad going. And I think as long as a healer's present, she's going to be absolutely unstoppable. There's just going to be a trail of bodies in her wake.
Sally and Davius were a great pairing back in the day. So it's only things have only gotten better. So
the builds have gotten so much better, and us as players have gotten so much better since then too.
Yep, very true.
So yeah, that's going to be a fun pair. And yeah, those two slaughtered. I mean, those two were a great pair even back then. So yeah, it's going to be a lot of fun. And then one more character that I've been playing around with is my Stamina Sorcerer, whom I've named Tane. And if you don't know the name Tane, it's spelled Tayne. Just search for it on YouTube.
It'll all make sense.
And you'll be happy you did. Anyway, I've really only been messing with him on PTS, but I think I have some really good ideas with this guy. I think he's going to be, well, he's always been like one of my top 3, but I think he's going to be absolutely next level this next patch. So the build is Briarheart, 5 pieces Briarheart, 5 pieces Morkildon, 2 pieces Troll King, and then the Master Bow on the back bar. And he uses dual daggers on the front bar. So I've already said in the past the plan is to drop Troll King and then do 1 piece Molag Kenna and then the new Ring of the Pale Order. And I'm absolutely still planning to do that. That's going to be awesome. Another thing I'm planning to do is I'm going to replace Morkildon. Davius, I think you're going to be happy to hear this because this is one of your favorite sets. I'm going to use Sword Dancer.
Very nice. Very nice.
So that's the set that now gives you 600 weapon damage to your dual wield abilities.
That is awesome to hear.
It's going to be great. We're going to have to farm. You're going to have to help me farm the Blessed Crucible for that. That's one of our favorite dungeons, so I don't think it's going to be a problem. It's a hilarious dungeon.
That's a big change. I did not expect to hear you say you're replacing Morkildon.
Yeah, well,
but I think that's going to show up real quick.
Yeah, I think there's no question. This dude already shreds, right? He already super shreds. But his entire combo is just rapid strikes and spin to win.
Yep.
Right? He hits people with poison injection to he'll hit you with poison injection just to get the Master Bow procced, but the actual combo is just rapid strike, spin to win. I mean, Dawnbreaker if it's up, but that's not every time. So just to have 600 straight weapon damage added to my main combo, that can't be a bad thing. And Morkildon, it does okay damage, but it's hard to control. It doesn't always hit the person you want to hit. It doesn't always hit them when you want it to hit them. It's fun. It's a cool visual effect, but I think Sword Dancer is going to be way, way better.
This is scary to think about because this character already just hits. I mean, just like a truck. So when you're talking about this big damage buff. Oof. Yeah,
he's going to be pushing, when you factor in Sword Dancer, he's going to be pushing 6k weapon damage.
That is, and on a stamSorc, streaking, moving around quick.
Yeah, with 2400 recovery.
Yeah, bow on the back bar. He's already speedy.
Super speedy. This dude's going to be next level, man. Him and Betsy, they've always been basically number 1, number 2 as far as my PvP builds go, and I don't know. He may inch up to number 1.
Try to take that top spot.
I wish I could duel them against each other somehow. So yeah, that's been my week, man. It's been a busy one. Stamina Warden Healer, stamDK, Stamina Sorcerer. A lot of stamina.
I'm familiar with the lot of stamina. It's an exciting time right now. We've got the new changes. They're really close now, so we're talking about all these, slight adjustments and changes, tinkering in some new items and things like that. As you know, the biggest thing I've been doing is the Werewolf. Some pretty big realizations about the Werewolf. First and foremost, I have to say, you missed the boat. I hit 50. I hit the max level character.
Okay.
The werewolf leveling the werewolves together is we missed out.
Sorry.
It's okay. So I was excited to hit 50 with it. I've been doing and we've talked about this. Werewolves and under 50 battlegrounds is just not fair. It's like a cheat code.
It's absurd.
It's ridiculous. But it has been extremely helpful, just in the sense to kind of get a feel of what the werewolf in a battleground is like. And the biggest thing that I have to say, I've never played a werewolf before. The biggest surprise that hit me is how easy it is to stay in werewolf form. I just was not aware of this. As never playing a werewolf, I had always assumed that a werewolf form is a little bit better than like the Bone Goliath or the Vampire ult. Like, you know, it lasts a little bit longer than that. But I had assumed it was one of those types of abilities where you get this window of opportunity to, you get the extra abilities, you get the extra power, and then you lose it. And so you got to work your way back up to it. That was kind of a big idea of why this ultimate build worked out. You know, I really like that idea for the Werewolf. But after testing and doing a bunch of under 50 battlegrounds and a couple 50 battlegrounds when I hit the level, every single battleground I was in, once I hit Werewolf, I never lost it. I didn't have a single battleground where I lost being a werewolf. I even had one ability. I chose the morph to keep me in werewolf form longer, and I went back and changed that morph just because I was staying in werewolf so easily. I think the biggest one that I didn't realize is there's a passive that as long as when you deal damage when you're in werewolf form, it extends your form by your werewolf form by 4 seconds when you deal damage, and that can happen every 5 seconds. So you're still burning a second, but essentially, you know, you're multiplying your actual, you know, it's a 30, I think werewolf form's 30 seconds. But as long as you're dealing damage and you're extending it by 4 seconds every 5 seconds, we always joke we're bad at math, but that's a massive buff just right there.
Right.
And then the other one is, as long as you throw in a couple of the feed, is as long as you kill someone, you get you feed on the body.
You don't even have to kill them, right? It's a dead body, right?
Yeah, as long as there's a dead body somewhere, which that's a good point in Battlegrounds, because I'm usually always able to find one. If you feed on one of them, you gain, I think it extends it by 3 seconds for every 1 second you feed on them, and you can feed on them up to 4 seconds. So if you feed on them for 4 seconds, you get another 12 seconds. Those are the two biggest pieces, but just due to those, I was going in, like I said, every battleground I did, I never lost the werewolf form. As soon as I hit it, I stayed in it through the entire, and I'm talking, even when you die, waiting to res, I would sit there, watch my res timer. I'd find it would hit, I would res, start over, still in werewolf form, go, get right back in the fight. So that really was the biggest surprise about this character for me, which in turn made me realize the ultimate build just doesn't work. So I'm sad to say the ultimate support build just doesn't make sense with a werewolf, because when you're in werewolf form, you can't get any ultimate. And not that I don't want to give my teammates ultimate, but ideally, the best idea for this build was a werewolf support for other werewolves. That makes absolutely no sense because nobody would be getting any ultimate. But even if I'm not with werewolf, I'm giving the teammates ultimate, but the entire build is just wasted on my character, because I'm not
wearer.
I'm not gaining anything out of it. And so I was sad to say that I have come to the decision that that build is out for my werewolf. So I'm back to the original. I talked about this a long time ago. Me and you have joked about it. The character is a Nightblade. So now I'm back to this, I'm going to make this Nightblade, bow snipe, ability or a character that, will annoy people. And then when they finally run over to it, I'm going to turn into a werewolf and kind of surprise them. And, because that's actually what I want to do, is I want to be up close and personal.
Troll factor engage.
I think it's going to be fun. It kind of adds a fun element to the character. But yeah, once I, as I've said, once I hit werewolf that first time, then I can just kind of hang out with that. So I wanted to kind of go over the build that I've put together in the build editor, because I was pretty blown away by how simple it is, but at the same time, the numbers that it put together. Now, granted, werewolf numbers, I understand werewolf numbers are very easy to get good. Obviously, they get a lot of buffs, but I just got to go over this. First of all, I got to go over the sets. You will be, I feel like I should wait for a round of applause. Monster set, Mighty True Dan.
Nice. Okay. I'm listening.
You're already a fan. But the other sets I'm doing is just Draugr Hulk, or Hulking Draugr. and Shacklebreaker. So it's 2 very...
Okay. A lot of stats.
Yeah, just stat sets. And let me read. These are non-CP Battleground stats that I'm going to. So these are the actual stats in a Battleground. So 26,000 health.
Pretty nice.
50,500 stamina.
That's too much. You need to take that down a little bit.
50,000 stamina, 26,000 health, 13,000 magicka, which is
pretty good.
That's important because the werewolf heal does take magicka, so it's nice to have that.
Costs quite a bit of magicka, right? Is my understanding.
It's about a 4K magicka heal.
Yeah.
Maybe be more than that. I think maybe even be closer to 5K. But it's a massive heal.
Yeah.
4,000 weapon damage.
Very nice.
46.6 crit.
4,000 weapon damage with 50k max stamina.
Yeah,
absurd.
I'm about to get some tooltips with you here. It's pretty wild to think about. So 46.6% crit, and then I love me some tankiness, and I got to thank the mighty Chudan for this. But 33,000 plus spell resistance, 33,000 plus physical resistance.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, as I'm looking at these...
That's not even fair.
I know. I'm sitting here going through this, and I'm like, these sets are so simple, but the numbers were just so beautiful. I was like, this is what I got to go with. And this will work for the Nightblade part of the build, too. Like, this will, these sets are not going to be... When I'm not in a werewolf, it's not like it's not going to be good.
Yeah, like Mighty Chudan's actually great for a Nightblade because they have a very unreliable source of the major resolve.
Yep, works perfect. So now let me get into some of these tooltips, which it gets even crazier. So what I have looked at in my experience with the build, there's the Howl of Agony, which I look at as the spammable. It's just simply physical damage, and enemies who are feared or facing you take 25% more damage from the attack. Just the tooltip on this build is 11,952 damage. Tooltip on that ability.
That's like a dizzying swing.
Yeah. And that is the spammable. It's 2,500 stamina, and that's not including the 25% more damage they take if they're feared or facing me. So I am really excited. Like, as I said, I've maxed out. I've leveled up the character. I still have to max out some skills, but my entire werewolf tree is completely maxed out. All the abilities are completely maxed out. I just kind of have to go through and level up some of the Nightblade abilities, and I still have to put the set together. But as I mentioned, these sets are pretty easy to get a hold of. I need to farm Hulking Draugr, but Shacklebreaker. We always joke about how much Shacklebreaker that we have.
It's always nice for one of your sets to be crafted because, like, you'll farm Hulking Draugr and you'll just use whatever the 5 first pieces you find are, and then craft whatever you're missing with Shacklebreaker.
Exactly. I've been playing the character, liking it a lot. Now, obviously, it's I don't think it's some secret weapon, and these builds are very common. So, we'll see what happens when I get into the actual real battlegrounds, at level 50 and things like that. But I'm just really excited. I mean, as far as stats go, just out of this world stats. So I'm excited to get this thing finally, all dot the T's, or, dot the I's, cross the T's, and really get this thing into a battleground and see what it can do.
Heck yeah, dude. I'll grab one of my healers and we'll make you immortal and see what kind of damage you can do.
Just see what happens. But yeah, so I've had a lot of fun with that character. That's the one I want to finish right now. The next one, I've already mentioned this one. That I'm going to be starting is I made another Templar. It's going to be a Magicka Templar.
Instead of making a build that you don't have, you made a second one that you do have. Okay.
There's good news and bad news to this. So I'm really excited about this character because, we've talked. Davius is a Magicka Templar. This character is going to be a Magicka Templar. Davius is such a unique character that he doesn't really count as a Magicka Templar, as a character that doesn't deal damage. I just decided I'm so familiar with the Templar class that I would like to at least have a Magicka Templar where I could utilize damage abilities. And so that's kind of what this character is going to be. But there's actually, and another little cool tidbit with this one is that with this character, we the Davius household is officially becoming an ESO household. So I'm actually going to be leveling this character with my son, who will be making a character as well.
Oh,
so
okay.
So we're expanding here.
What's his podcasting experience?
Let's go ahead and send that over. What experience in podcasting? So I think this one will be fun. That's this one I've kind of got on the shelf because obviously he'll be leveling slow, but still kind of a cool tidbit about this one.
So wait. Is he leveling this character, or does he have his own account?
Well, of course, I'm going to get him his own account. We've got to build the recruits. We got to have more people. So he'll be having his own account with his own character, but I'm going to be,
but probably not a ESO Plus subscriber.
No.
Right?
We're not that dedicated yet. He may not
get to CP 810, son. Then we'll see.
Then we'll see. Yeah, we don't know if it'll take, but. He has at least shown interest to give it a shot. So I'm going to utilize this character as kind of level with him. So I think that'll be a lot of fun just to kind of have fun with that. So I'm still excited to have it. I love the name of this character. And this is one of those characters that all I did was make it Bard of Sovngarde is the name. And then I just spent an hour and a half on the look of the character. And now I already love the character just because I love the look so much. And so I'm already in love with this character, and it's just at the base level 3 after the tutorial. So
sweet.
So the last thing I want to talk about, because I know you've been giving me a hard time about making another Magicka Templar after I already have one, is that I still want to make this ultimate build happen. I still love the idea of it. I think it's an awesome group.
You're talking about the one that you were going to do on your Werewolf.
Yes. So it's the two sets that drop from Stogarden. It's something Howl and Arcasis' Genius, I think. But they're both just ultimate gen sets for the group, though. So I still want to make this set happen, but I wanted to talk to this with you because I was interested to hear your take on this. And my initial thought, and we kind of talked a little bit about this, my initial thought is this would be my perfect Magicka Warden. So I could make a 10th character, do the Magicka Warden, heal support build that you've told me that if I ever make it, I'm going to fall in love with it. But the tricky part is those sets, well, at least one of the sets is medium armor stamina based. One of them is just armor and health based, so you could make that one work. But I don't know. I don't think it would work with the Magicka Warden because it's going to be a medium armor stamina set. So I don't know. I still 100% want to make that build. I think it would be more fun. It's just kind of a healer support build, so it's dropping heals and generating ultimate for the group. But it's probably going to have to be a stamina set, which you may make fun of me. One idea I had is maybe I make another stamina warden. And kind of go with the Hambone approach, maybe a stamina.
That's an option. If it's a straight support build, though, I feel like you can get away with a lot of weird stuff. Like I know for a long time, I saw a lot of like trial healers wearing Hircines, which is a medium armor stamina set, but medium or stamina damage dealers were the meta for a while, and so it was beneficial to wear that.
That's interesting. I would like to make it work with the Magicka Warden. I just think it would be really cool because, as you've said, Magicka Wardens make great healer support classes. They have the best, that ultimate heal that Wardens have is one of the best heals in the game.
They are the MVP of every team that they're on. Period.
So I just love the idea that, and it's really it's the class. It's their class abilities. So as long as you've got good stats, I feel like I can get it, I can get what I need out of the support with the class abilities. And so I can throw on these ultimate gen sets and really make this really cool support build that is giving my group, just feeding ultimate to my group like crazy while dropping heals. I don't know.
It's like the build idea is still solid, just maybe not for a werewolf.
Right. I just think that I still love the idea of generating ultimate and being that support. But now the build itself is still going to benefit from it as well. So the teammates will benefit as well as my character will benefit, which is just going to lead to more heals if I do go with a Magicka Warden. So that's kind of my thoughts on that. I would have to make a 10th character, which is pretty wild to think about, considering where.
Oh, you're like buying character slots now,
I'm gonna
right?
have to do a new character, which is crazy to think about. Where I've come in the last, I don't know, year and a half, to think a 10th character is pretty wild.
It all started with, what was it, Bear Claw?
My stamina.
Was that the beginning of your altaholism? You're so addicted to that Altahol.
That there's the podcast title right there.
There it is. You're so addicted to that Altahol.
But yeah.
So addicted to that Altahol. There we go. I like that.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's down the road, obviously, but I got some other stuff that I want to do before that. But I really still love the idea of a support build that's feeding ultimate to the team. And I just want to see what that would do in a battleground environment. Is it, it may be terrible, but most ult abilities are pretty great. So if it's really just making an entire team just throw their ults around, I would love to see what effect that has in a battleground.
Yeah, if I could just be spamming my Dawnbreaker, like if DB is just my spammable, that'd be sweet.
Everybody would love that.
Yeah. Or like a Nightblade with Incap, and Incap is super cheap, and they can already cast Incap about every other combo attempt. So if they could do that every single combo attempt, that would be pretty sweet.
I might feel a little guilty if I bring that one into the world. After playing a Nightblade and seeing what Incap is all about, it's, oh boy.
I'm so glad they put the stun back on it too. Incap was sad for a while, and it still has that minor cast time, and that does hurt it quite a bit, I think.
Yeah.
But at least it has that stun, and that's what it really, that's the important thing.
Yeah, that's what it's all about.
Cool, man. Is that your whole week?
That's basically what I've been doing, and I'm hoping this next week to finish out this Werewolf.
Pretty action-packed week for the both of us.
We got a lot going on.
Well, I guess that's that. Emails, no emails this week, but if you'd like to send us an email, you can email us at scrollinpodcast@gmail.com. That's scrollin with an I-N, no G, scrollinpodcast@gmail.com. Feel free to tell us a joke, ask us a question, give us any corrections if we were wrong about anything, or if we maybe touched on a topic and you'd like to hear us go more in depth on that. Really, whatever you can think of, as long as you're friendly about it, drop us a line. We also have a guild called Stoon's Goons. It's mainly a social guild with somewhat of a PvP leaning. But of course, we do a little bit of everything, and we're mainly just about hanging out, chatting in Discord, trading memes, and really just a lot of theorycraft. Like if the main thing you get out of this podcast is the theorycraft discussion and talking about how to put builds together and swapping ideas and stuff like that, that's the primary thing that we do in our guild, is just talk about builds and toss ideas around.
And memes.
Builds, memes, then builds, in that order. And then let's see, mandatory Stoon's favor on what
everybody is
whatever build we're talking about. Whatever build we're talking about, it's always Stoon's favor is assumed to be there.
You may think that when we talk about these builds, that's weird. They've mentioned all the slots. You just didn't quite hear us right. There's an unspoken
Listen to it again.
Stoon's in there.
Listen to it again. Stoon's is there.
It's in there.
All right, I think we're going to call that an episode. What is this? Episode number 36?
Episode number 36.
So, how far we've come. We've made it 36 whole episodes. I very much appreciate you guys listening this far. I hope you join us again next time for episode number 37. We'll see you then.